I'm going to start today with these holly leaves at the top, and I'm just going to show you how to remove the thread from your thread organizer if you have purchased the kit, and how to prepare your threads for sewing. I'm all set up here. It's not the coziest of corners because I need to set up the camera, but I have got my lovely candle. I bought a local candle from the Shops Mall pop-up shop by Moki. This is a spiced mulled wine one, so I wish you could smell it. It's delicious. I have my cup of tea. I have my scissors handy, my 2 needles, because sometimes the bigger needle is just quicker and easier to thread up, especially on when I'm filming. I have already got my design onto my fabric and hooped up, so it's time to start stitching. So I'm going to start with the darker green. So I'm just going to pull the threads out, and these have already been pre-cut. If you are sewing with your own stash, then I recommend that you cut your thread no longer than the distance between the tip of your finger and your elbow so that it doesn't get too twisty. So we're just going to need 1 thread for the moment, so I'm going to fold the rest of them in half and put them back into my organizer. So if you are using your own stash and you want to make your own organizer, just get a piece of cardboard and a hole punch. So I've just put the fold in there. I'm just going to tuck up through and pull, and then that's going to keep it nice for when I need those again. Now in the thread we have 6 strands, so I just need to separate it so that we've only got 3. So I'm just going to pull out 1, 2, 3. And then with this extra bit that we may need for the holly leaves, I'm just going to put that to one side so I don't lose it. If you've not separated your threads like I've just done, the reason for doing it like that is to stop the twist. When the threads are put together in the factory, they can get twisted through the packaging as well, by the way that they are put together. So separate the 3 of them, and then we can thread our needles. There are mine. Lost them already. Personal preference, I prefer to stitch with a longer needle, so I'm going to use the this is a size 5 embroidery needle, but you can do whatever you want, it doesn't matter. It's purely personal preference. I do apologise for the sound of my voice. It's sod's law, isn't it, that when I need to record a video, I happen to have a sore throat and cold. Okay, I'm just going to do a quick knot at the end. Just going to wrap it around my finger a couple of times. My needle through and pull. Okay, so as I said, we're going to start with the holly leaves at the top. I'm leaving the star till the very, very end because I'm going to be using this gold DMC thread, which is not the easiest to stitch with. So I'm going to leave that to the very end. And also I think it gives a nice effect of finishing to be the nice sparkly bit at the top. So I'm going to start just underneath that with the holly leaves, and I'm going to do a satin stitch. Now you don't have to do the stitches that I'm doing at all. This is a sew along and you can do it however you want. I'm just demonstrating a way that I would like to do it. If you don't like satin stitch, if you prefer the look of something else, that's absolutely fine. Just you do you. So I'm going to do satin stitch, and instead of putting a line across the middle here, I'm going to do the satin stitch in the top half and then the satin stitch in the bottom half to try and create that kind of line without using another colour. So to begin with, what I like to do is to outline the stitches, because I find that that helps me stick to the lines that are on the pattern and not go squiffy. So I'm just going to, you could do a back stitch for this, or you could do a running stitch, or you can miss this bit out completely if you want to. This is not normally how you would do satin stitch, but I find that it helps me. So I'm just going along the stick and stitch lines. I'm just going to zoom in a bit more. There we go. So I'm just going along the stick and stitch lines. I'm doing a back stitch, just coming up and going back to the previous stitch. You could do a running stitch for this, or as I said, you could miss this bit out completely. Because there's a bit of a curve there, I'm going to do 2 stitches. And in fact, you could just backstitch the entire pattern. You could just backstitch all over the whole thing in one colour or in different colours, and that would look effective as well. That would be a quicker way of doing it. And it would look just as effective, just like you're drawing with your thread. So now that I have done my outline, I'm going to start, as you would with normal satin stitch, come up at the edge of, let me zoom in a bit again, come up at the edge of your design and straight back down again. You could fill the whole stitch, the whole shape, but I am just going to go to that halfway line. So up again, straight back down to that halfway line. And I have learned not to pull the stitch. I used to, when I first started, I used to really pull that satin stitch tight at the end, but actually, if you don't pull it too hard, you just kind of loosely pull it through, it sits really nicely on the top of the fabric and gives them more of a 3D effect. So I'm coming up just above where I did that back stitch outline and going down really close to my previous stitch. Not pulling it, just being really nice and gentle, and it gives that kind of 3D effect. So you can see that we're building up the holly leaf there. I'm not quite sure how these videos are going to work. I don't know whether you're the kind of person that likes to stitch along with somebody, or whether you just like to get the instructions, do your own thing. I'm more of the second type of person. So, but I'm happy to take feedback, whatever you enjoy the most, whatever you think is going to work better for you. So I'm going to demonstrate how to do a stitch and then kind of speed up me stitching, or, although to be honest, that's a bit tricky on on the camera to do stitching, because I'm trying to make sure that my fingers aren't in the way, trying to make sure that you can see what I'm doing. So I think what I will do is demonstrate the stitch and then magically through editing show you what mine looks like at the end. There is no pressure for you to do all of the stitches that I'm going to show you today to get all of that done, especially not in one day. I'm doing it in one video because it's easier for me to do it in one video, upload one video, rather than last year when I was doing a video a day. So you do not need to do all of the bits that I'm showing you. I want to give you enough so that you've got stuff to do. And it's spread out so you don't feel like there's too much to do. But if you've not joined in on the first day and you're catching up, there is no such thing as catching up. You're just going at your own pace. It's all good. It's fine. Okay. So there we go, I'm happy with that. I have done the top half of my holly leaf, and now I'm going to repeat that and do the bottom. So I actually think it would be easier for me to turn the hoop around. That's just me. I don't know whether that's something you would find easier. So I'm going to start off by doing a little back stitch outline. Not necessary, but I find it helps me stay a little bit neater and gives me a guide of where to put my stitches. So alternatives that you could do for the holly leaves, you could just do the outline. That would look really nice in a running stitch or a back stitch, or you could fill the whole thing with satin stitch and then do a different coloured stitch over the top to show the kind of line, the mark in the middle. Yeah, once you have got your favourite stitches, then I find you can use them in lots of different ways, whatever you enjoy doing. I used to hate doing satin stitch till I realised that actually the secret to satin stitch is to keep your work really taut and to not pull the stitches too hard. So there we've got my outline, and I'm going to do the satin stitch again. Now, I don't like working from left to right, so even though my thread at the back, it would make sense for me to carry on here, I'm actually going to start back over here. When I was writing my embroidery stitch guide, which is in your kit or can be downloaded for free on my website, I think I realised that sometimes I stitch left-handed, that I don't always go the direction that is recommended by some embroidery books, but I think that's fine. Just go with whatever feels natural to you. For me, it feels natural to stitch this from the right to the left. I don't know why. Maybe it's the shape. Maybe it's that I've got the hoop upside down. I don't know. If you've not stitched with stick and stitch, this is your first time. If you're using the patches that I had available in my shop, then you might find that stitching here is a bit awkward to begin with, but you soon get used to it. If you find that you're it's lifting up a bit, like mine is lifting up at the sides, you can just press that down again. Now I just wanted to, at this early stage, have a bit of a word with you about perfectionism as well. That's something that I really struggle with, and I've worked really hard this year to kind of let that go and encourage people on my workshops to let that go as well, because it just holds you back from trying new things. And something to remember is we are stitching something for enjoyment. This is to slow down, enjoy the process. It's not about the finished product. You're not going to display it anywhere where people are going to come up and inspect it. You're going to put it up in your home and show people, ta-da, look what I made, and they're going to be suitably impressed, and they're going to be proud of you for sticking with it and for doing something lovely. So it doesn't matter if your stitches are a bit wonky. And also, holly is a natural thing that we find. None of the holly leaves are all going to be exactly the same, so it doesn't matter if it's a little bit wonky. Okay. I'm sorry if I go off the camera accidentally. I will keep on periodically having a look and make sure that it's okay. So there we have one holly leaf, and then through the magic of editing, we will soon have two. And there we have our first stitched holly leaves. So I just wanted to show you how to finish off your thread on the back. I'm just going to run my needle through some of the stitches that I've already done, pull through, and as the thread forms that loop, pass your needle through and pull it tight. and then you can cut it off. There's still quite a bit of, I used both parts of the embroidery strand that we separated at the beginning, but there is still quite a bit left here, so I'm going to make sure that I put that to one side and keep it, because it could be handy later, particularly when we're doing little things like these bows at the bottom. So now that I've done the holly at the top, I'm going to swap colours, and it's difficult to see now because of my stitches, but there are some berries buried underneath there. So I'm going to use my lovely red colour to stitch those berries. So we're going to use French knots for the berries. See, I've tried to separate my thread the way that I used to separate my thread, where you pick 3 and just pull, and I've got myself into a bit of a knot. So do as I say and not as I do. Should be separating them individually to avoid that twistiness. You can see how twisted this strand is, how it wants to curl up because of the way that it's been put together. So I am actually going to be a good girl and separate them one by one, just because I know that the more twisty the threads want to twist, the more difficulty I'm going to have later if I have a problem with my stitching and I need to undo any, or just if I want to do some satin stitch, it's less likely to lie flat if you've got that twist in it. So just by separating it, you can see, and just running your fingers over it a couple of times. So that's the one that I've just separated all 3 strands, and this is the one that I took off. Just by separating, you can see how much more twist there is. So yeah, it's a good idea to do that. It just saves you problems later, really. Okay, so I've threaded up my needle and put another knot in the bottom, and now we're going to do some French knots. Let's make sure that I've got my camera zoomed in. Okay, so to pull my needle through. Make sure it's in a good position. Excuse me. Now the key to a good French knot is keeping some tension in this bit of thread, but not too much. Don't want to pull it really tight that it's pulling the fabric, but you don't want it loose like that either. So I'm going to hold, because I'm right-handed, I'm holding the thread that's coming out in my left hand, and I'm going to wrap with my needle in my right hand. So I'm going to wrap the floss around. I'm going to go for 3 times. You could do 2 times, 2 or 3. And then, keeping that tension here, I'm going to put my needle back into the fabric, just where the thread is coming out. Push that needle through, and then pull through to the back. This is quite difficult to try and do it and keep it on camera. So as you're pulling that knot through, I'm still keeping a little bit of tension, keeping that out of the way, and doing it really gently. And there you have a beautiful French knot. Now I've done one that is three wraps, 1 in the middle. You could do 2 wraps and you could do a group of 3, but I actually quite like the look of just the one. It's a bit like cherry on the top of a cake, so I'm going to leave it like that. And then obviously we've got a lot of this red floss left over, so we need to make sure that we keep that safe as well, ready for next time that we're going to be using red. Okay, so now that was a quick stitch, wasn't it? Now we're going to go on to the mistletoe and this ribbon. So originally when I designed it, I thought, oh, we'll have a nice red ribbon, but because I put the holly above it, I decided that was too close. You could use red ribbon if you wanted to. I'm actually going to use the pink ribbon for this, the kind of dusty pink colour. I think that'll look nice against the green of the mistletoe that I'm going to use underneath it. So I'm going to get the pink out. Oh, actually no. The ribbon is going to go on top of the mistletoe, so actually we should do the mistletoe first. Okay, so we've got 3 colours of green here to choose from for the mistletoe, or you've got your own colours that you can choose from. We've used the dark one obviously for the holly already. There's 2 different colours here. There's different choices. You could do one colour for the kind of branch, the stalk, and then a different colour for the leaf and the inside. You could satin stitch the leaves and then do the middle another colour, or you could do it in halves like we've done here. I'm actually just going to do the outline, I think, of these, and then some French knots for the white berries. And I think I'm going to have the darker, so this kind of middle green for the branch, and this kind of lighter green for the outside of the leaves. And I'm undecided whether to do the inside of the leaf the same as this colour, or I might do it that colour. I'll think about that, but I'm going to start off with the mid green, which is going to be the stalks, the branches of the mistletoe. I've chosen to do a simple back stitch for the branch. I'll just show you how I've done that. There's 3 overlapping kind of stems at the top. I'm going to go down this one on the left now. So come up at the end of the stitch and go back to your previous stitch. I'm actually not sure. I think, yeah, what I'm doing there is I'm stitching over where the ribbon's going to be. So let me just undo that. So this is a great time to show you what to do when you make a mistake. So take your needle off the thread and use the eye of the needle to go underneath the previous stitch, and just pull through. Just be nice and gentle, because the quicker you do it, the more likely it is to want to tangle. And I need to redo this bit. Well, what I've done there is I've just pulled one of the 3 strands. You need to make sure you get all 3 of them at the same time, otherwise they like to knot up. There we go. So there's 3 little bits at the top here which show you the 3 strands, and then there's one here, and one here, but this one actually starts under here. I was stitching over the top of the ribbon. That's why we decided to do the mistletoe first and do the ribbon over the top afterwards, and that will just help to neaten it up a little bit. So now just unpick those stitches. I'm going to rethread my needle. So I'm really sorry about the light of this video. That's one of the problems with recording at this time of year. Okay, I hope you can see everything okay though. So I'm going to come up much further down there and go back. And it just goes down to the down to this side, where we will eventually put a little another little French knot white berry for the mistletoe. That's it. And then we're going to go back and do this one here. You don't have to use a back stitch for this. You could use a stem stitch, or you could use a whipped running stitch, but that's what I want to use, I think, for the ribbon. So I didn't want the same effect on the stems. There's 2 little stems there. One that goes off at an angle to a berry. And then back down. And then what we will do is we will swap our thread for the other green to do the leaves. And to do the leaves, I'm going to use a detached chain stitch. Detached chain stitch. I'm going to start with this one over here. I'm going to bring up my needle at the point here, and then I'm going to bring it back down here. So bring up my needle. Sorry, what I should have said, made that a bit clearer. I'm going to bring it up and back down here, so right back next to where it came out. Then I'm going to bring my needle up at the end. Now, you need to make sure that this loop that's created, your needle's on the inside of that loop, so that when you pull, it makes a chain. And do it very gently, because we want a large open chain. We don't want a very narrow slit. It doesn't matter if it doesn't lie exactly on top of the shape that I've drawn for the pattern, because this pattern will be soaked away, which is why it's good to, if you're transferring your pattern, use an erasable or a water erasable fabric pen so that you don't see the stitches underneath. So I'm just going to anchor that in place there. Again, making sure I don't pull too tight, so we get that lovely open shape. And then I'm going to do this one over here. I'm trying to make sure I don't bring up my needle in the middle of a stitch. I'm sorry, it's so dark. So I'm going to go back down, right next to what came out, and then up again at the end. You can see that loop, my needle's in the middle of it. Pull it through really gently to create another leaf. And repeat on the other side. Now, if you decided not to do chain stitch, if you decided to do back stitch all around, you may want to do the line going up the middle. With this chain stitch, you might decide, actually, I don't need anything in the middle. I'm just going to leave, I'm going to leave the stitches as they are. I can't decide whether to do a darker stitch in the middle. I'm going to have a look at it at the end and see what I think. Oh, it seems to have got caught. Because you're not going to have the kind of dark grey colour showing through, because that will have all washed away. Sorry, I'm so sorry. I keep on taking my zoom out a bit, and then I won't keep on going off the camera. It's difficult because the camera's above me so that you can see what I'm doing, but obviously I'm concentrating on my embroidery hoop and I don't notice that I've gone off. there are any stitches or things that I say that you think, oh, she went a bit quick there, or I'm not quite sure what she means, then please do message me. Either send me a DM on Instagram, or contact me on Facebook, or my email, and I will try to clarify if it's something I've said which makes no sense, which is very highly likely, or I will do a slow down demo if I've gone a bit too fast or gone off the camera. I don't want you to feel that you're stuck or that you're getting left behind. If there's anything that you want me to go over, that's fine. Okay, so I have done all of my leaves, and I decided to do a simple just stitch in the middle to make them a little bit more standing out. Okay, I'm going to do French knots for the berries on the mistletoe. So again, like the one we did for the holly, I'm going to do 3 twists of thread. And then it's nice and festive. Whoops. 1, 2, 3. Now, I don't know whether you noticed then, let me zoom in a little bit more, but the first time I did that knot, it got very big and loose at the bottom. 1, 2, 3. Can you see it's got quite loose? It's because I've let go of the tension here. If you pull that, it'll tighten it up so that it doesn't go kind of flappy. But it's nice and tight against the surface of the fabric. I haven't done the previous stitch all the way to the end. So if I put the dot where the stick and stitch says to put the berry, it's going to look a bit odd because it won't be connected. So do make those decisions. Don't stick to the plan underneath. If you need to fudge it or you need to change it, then do what you need to do. So I will, oh, there we go. I'll show you what I mean a bit closer there. So obviously I didn't do this previous stitch to the end. So if I'd have done the French knot where it should be on the stick and stitch, it would have been detached from the branch and would have looked a bit peculiar. So I've moved it up a little bit. So just do your, you can add some more. So I did draw different berries on here, but obviously depending on the size of your chain stitches, I think it would look good with a few more. So I'm just going to add an extra one here. If you're struggling with the French knots, you can do what is called a colonial knot, and there is a tutorial video for that on my YouTube channel. It pretty much looks like a French knot, but it's a bit easier to do. Now that one has come out really baggy. I'm just going to pull it a bit tighter from the back before I continue stitching. It's kind of hiding under there anyway. So put as many kind of mistletoe berries on as you want to, and then we're going to do the pink ribbon. I just wanted to show you a way that you can remove the threads without having to undo all of the bundle. So I just want one of these pink threads, so I'm just putting my needle with the eye end underneath and just pull, and it brings out one strand, which saves you undoing all of them. So I'm using pink for this ribbon. You can use any colour that you want. You could do a gold ribbon, you could do a blue ribbon. It's up to you. So I'm going to use this pink, or you could do a red ribbon. And we're going to use the whipped back stitch. stitch for this one, just because it's got some curves in it, and this is a good one for doing curved. Sorry, I'm having trouble threading my needle. It's a good one for doing curves. The interlaced, the whipped, sorry, not interlaced, whipped running stitch, because it pulls the stitches together and it covers up if your stitches are not the same length, which is tricky to do on curves as well, because you do have to change the stitch length. So this is the last thing that we're going to stitch today. Next week we will be doing the robins, the nest, and this garland with the stocking and the pudding and the candy cane and the gingerbread man. The week after that we will be doing the bottom garlands and the presents, and then in the last week, and I am aware that the last Sunday is Christmas Eve, so we are just going to be doing this heart and the star, which isn't a lot of stitching. It's quite quick and it's quite a nice kind of Christmas Eve project you can put on your wall. But I am thinking, and I will take feedback from you, of releasing the video on the Wednesday, which means that you have got a bit of time to do it, because I know that this time of year with family, and you may want to display it on your wall before Christmas Eve. So I think I will actually release the last video on Wednesday the 20th of December, rather than waiting until Sunday the 24th. Yeah, so I'm going to stitch the ribbon now. So we did the mistletoe first so that we could stitch over the top of this bit, and that's actually where I'm going to start. No, it's not. Yeah, no, I'm going to start over here instead, actually. Just make sure I remember to go over the top. So we're doing a interlaced running stitch. I'm going to keep my stitches quite small for this. Zoom in a little. Oops, the day's not very wobbly. Excuse me one moment. Okay. So I'm going to keep my stitches quite small, and we're just doing a running stitch all the way along the ribbon from one side to the other. So you're going to go along here, around that loop, and then back round. Now these tiny little loops could cause a little bit of a problem. Just try and space out your stitches so that they don't all bunch up in this overlap. I can see quite a lot of the grey through my pink stitches, which doesn't look great at this stage, but remember it will be washed away and you'll be left just with your lovely choice of ribbon colour. Again, a bit like the satin stitch, I'm not pulling my thread really tightly all the way through. So this is what I meant about try to space your stitches so that they don't cause too much of a problem. I'm going to go just before that overlap so that there's not a lot of stitching in that area. And then keep going. This is the bit where I got confused with my stem. So the ribbon is going along here, and this bit here all the way along there. Oh, I'm threading my needle. That wasn't very good. So now we're getting to the bit where it's going to cross over the mistletoe. Oh, my ends are a bit scraggy, so I'm just going to cut those off and neaten those. idea. I'm really pleased with the colours that we chose. This pink against the mistletoe. It's really nice. I can't wait to see if you're using your own stash. Can't wait to see how the pattern looks different with the fabric that you've chosen, and the this is a prime example of when I'm going to use the chenille needle, because it's just quicker to thread a wide-eyed one when I'm trying to get this done for the video. Yeah, I can't wait to see the different versions depending on what fabric you've chosen to use, what colours you're using for your stitches. So I'm going to go, I know I said we were doing that and then that, but actually we want to mimic what a ribbon would do, because when we do the whipping, it will look like one big flow. So I'm going to go across here and then across that way. It will make sense when we do the weaving in and out. I hope. I hope it all makes sense then. I've done the running stitch all along the ribbon, and now it's time to do the weaving in and out. So I'm going to bring my needle up really close to where it's just gone back down, and then using the eye of the needle, I'm going to thread it, weave, excuse me, I'm going to thread the needle underneath the stitch and then back underneath the next one, so it creates a kind of weaved effect. But you need to make sure that you are going underneath the stitch in the same direction each time. So I'm passing from the top of my kind of tree to the bottom. Now this ribbon goes around a loop, so I need to make sure I'm going from the top of the stitch down to the bottom as it turns. I turn it round, top to bottom, turn it round. So I don't know if you can see that it's got a little bit messy there because it's so close together. So you need to pull the thread so it's tight, but also use your needle to spread it out a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my take my thread back through to the back at this point, so that that is kind of anchored in place, and then I'm going to bring it back up down here excuse me, and carry on what I was doing. So from the top down to the bottom, top down to the bottom, and as you pull the thread through, it kind of joins the running stitch together and gives it this look of gives it this look of one kind of line rather than lots of little bits together. So here my ribbon goes underneath. So this is the bit where I went over, round, and then this bit of ribbon kind of comes from underneath. So I'm going to pass my needle underneath that stitch and carry on round from here. You need to look at the stitching, the way that it's lying, and see what works best for you. And there may be times where you've realised that you've spread your running stitch out a little bit and it doesn't look, it's not lying completely correctly. Just use the end of your needle and just to kind of position it and poke it around. And if you think it's really not fixable, you can always take your needle through to the back, anchor it, and then start weaving again. I think what's happened here is that one of my stitches has got caught on the stick and stitch fabric. There we go. Use my thumb just to pull that back. Okay, and then keep it going. I finished weaving through. I'm at the end now, so I'm just going to take my needle through to the back and finish it off, and then that is the cozy stitching that we're going to do today. That is Happy Stitchmas for the first kind of week. Apologise for the sound of my voice and for the light and for disappearing off the screen all the time. But I hope that you have been able to follow along and that I've given you some idea of some stitching and how to start. So just to recap, we did satin stitch for the holly, we did French knots for the berries on both the holly and the mistletoe. We did a back stitch for the stems of the mistletoe, detached chain stitch for the petals, and then we did a whipped running stitch for the ribbon. Again, those are just my suggestions. If you prefer to do something else, that's absolutely fine. If you are struggling with the ribbon, remember the transfer will be removed and no one will see. So if you want to miss out these little loopy bits and just have the straight lines going, I think that would look quite effective. I'm not particularly happy with this little fella here, but I'm going to let that go because it's handmade. You can tell what it is and I'm pretty pleased with that. So I can't wait to see what you have stitched. If you have any comments or issues, then please get in touch. You can share what you've done on Instagram, Facebook with the hashtag Happy Stitchmas 2023. And I hope you enjoy a nice bit of slow stitching. Bye.